Hello, everyone. I'd like to review the study questions for Glenn Gray's The Idea of Death and Existentialism. Looking them over, these are some pretty challenging questions, so I will do my best to give you coherent answers, at least to give you a sense of what I had in mind. Number one, what point is Gray making about Geborgenheit, the German word for safety or security? I think a general point is that there isn't any. At one point, he says that according to existentialism, Geborgenheit, safety, is a profound illusion. One of the quotes that I found very powerful that he takes from Heidegger is that to be a human being is to be exposed to nothingness, and that the fundamental truth of the human condition is exposure. And clearly that has a lot to do with death. And you may relate it, I think, to what Hans Jonas says about the continual possibility of death being the one sense of mortality that he's working with. Human beings are constantly exposed to the possibility of death. There is no ultimate safety. One of the things that Jaspers says about human existence is that we are like a boat floating on an ocean in which there are no ports. I mean, think about that situation. There are no ports. There's nowhere to go. You'll float till you sink, as they used to say in the Navy. She'll float till she sinks. When somebody asked about whether the boat was safe, she'll float till she sinks, and we will all float till we sink. There's no port. There's no haven. We are exposed. Number two, what is Jasper's idea of the boundary situation, and what other human experiences include besides death? Why? Well, the boundary situation is a very interesting idea, I think. That there are some things and most things that we come, most problems, I should say, that we confront in life have solutions, or at least they have possible solutions. We may or may not find them, but the human imagination is such that it's always looking for a solution. But boundary situations are problems that confront us that have no solution. Death, guilt, suffering, chance. Those are the other experiences that he includes with death, and all of them have the characteristic of being what is called final in the text. I think insoluble problems are more like things that we can't get over. There's no way to avoid them. Guilt is an interesting thing to include because guilt is about the past. It's about things that we regret having done in the past. And the thing about the past is that you can't change it, so you simply have to accept it. Death is kind of like that. It's something that you can't change. You simply have to accept your mortality. So a boundary situation is one of those things we run up against. There's nothing to be done except basically to acknowledge the reality of the thing and to accept it. Number three, if I merely accept that all human beings are mortal, that they will die, I am not, according to Heidegger, living in the truth. Why not? Well, you're not living in the truth because you made it into an abstract thing. Human beings are mortal. They die, when the really important thing is that you are mortal, that you will die. And it's one thing to register on an abstract level that everybody dies. It's another thing to accept or to realize, not to accept, but to realize, to be conscious of your own death as a future event, a future inevitable reality. So Heidegger's message, as I take it through Gray, is that we have to personalize death. If we make it into an abstract thing, then it's just another form of denial. Number four, according to Gray, Heidegger claims that I have no claim on any but the present moment. What does this have to do with death? That is a good question. I have no claim on any but the present moment. The past is gone, the future is not here. All I have at any point is the present. But what does that mean? I have it entirely. It really is a realization of one's freedom To realize that you have no claim on anything but the present is also to realize that you have an absolute claim over it, and you are a free being. What does this have to do with death? Well, I think I've included a little clip from one of my favorite movies, My Dinner with Andre, in which Wally Shawn gives an interpretation of Heidegger, in which he, well, this gets us into number 5 too, about an openness to death and human existence as a being unto death. The general idea is that to really live in the moment and to realize the truth of things in the moment, to really be there, that requires an openness to death. That is, to really live in the moment is to also necessarily be aware of one's mortality. So as a being unto death, we are creatures that necessarily are moving towards our end, our nothingness. And to really know ourselves is to know ourselves as that sort of being, to know ourselves as a being that is moving towards its end. So 4 and 5, I was really thinking along the same lines, that to really be in the present is to really live and to be conscious of oneself, and that is to be open to death. So if we close ourselves off to any kind of death consciousness, we also close ourselves off to our own being, is the idea, which I think is, I don't know if it's true, an extremely interesting idea.